Hey everyone, me and my friend Nate Thomas are back with another review for you this time, and today we are going to be doing a movie that my friend has requested, Batman versus Dracula.
The Batman versus Dracula.
Yeah, this was a movie I hadn't watched in a while, so I had to go rewatch it again a couple of times to get familiarized with it and everything. It's a it's a really some consider this to be the best part of like the Batman series and everything.
Can we clarify what series this is for context?
Yeah, it's the I think the 2004 series. It alters some of the character designs and everything. It has like a very underrated Joker incarnation and performance by Kevin Michael Richardson, who does the voice very well, and it brings a different, like, I guess you could say, twist to the already chaotic character. And
Does a lot of good stuff with old existing characters. Like they gave some really good redesigns. Like I don't know if we'll get clips up of these up in editing or not, but just like characters like Firefly had a really good design. Mr. Freeze, even though they changed the backstory, you and I can argue it was at least trying to give it something original.
yeah,
And plus, he's voiced by Clancy Brown, who voiced Lex Luthor and Mr. Krabs, respectively, and Taskmaster. Actually, I forgot about him.
and now we were going to be doing the movie that this show all ends with and
It
brings
doesn't
in.
end with it, actually.
Oh,
This
it,
movie was made after season one.
oh, my bad.
I didn't know that until a while back either, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But anyways, this brings in a very a conflict between two similar characters, even though Batman did not want to even consider the possible.
What did you say there partially? Your mic cut out partially when you were saying that.
Well, they're similar. Like Batman did not want to consider himself similar to Dracula, even though he is. Whether even, not just like in terms of style and presence, some ways personality and
Because they're a bunch of assholes.
admittedly, some things about this movie, being like being a fan of vampires, with vampire folklore and everything. And like obviously this movie, with like generally most vampire fiction, takes some differences in like obviously drawing on Bram Stoker's Dracula with certain significant changes, like Dracula in the original book by Stoker.
Powers for what? Like, you keep cutting out randomly. Powers for what?
Yeah, in the book, Dracula, when he's in sunlight, it doesn't kill him, but it more weakens him to an extent. It takes like the whole nocturnal creature thing to different, like how certain predatory animals, like when they like their vision and everything is much more honed for like the night and everything, and being in daylight really affects them. So in this twist to it, it like being who is like supposedly like the king of the night and everything, like not so much like a truly terrible weakness to sunlight, but more so like a vulnerability. But
Again, give them credit for doing their own take so they don't copy everybody else.
well, vampire folklore, dates back thousands of years. Like, there's stories from all around the world, from various civilizations and culture and everything. Like
Remember the movie even referenced that?
yeah, it's like
Alfred mentions it directly in one scene.
it's hard to separate fact from fiction. Though when you have legends of a species of,
Bro, you cut out again for a solid 10 seconds.
I don't know what's going
Sorry
on.
for the technical issues, guys, and I'm getting over a cold, so if I cough.
That's issues here, but like, when you're dealing with a species whose stories date back almost 7,000 years, you're gonna have
Oh, yeah.
like some. That's what I'm guessing based off what I know, which is admittedly very little. But like this, like these legends bring in various like details and different aspects to it. Like in some ways, like vampires and or vampiric beings, like in some ways seem like different species almost, which I think is sort of almost kind of tied into this movie a little bit, though I don't know if it was intentional or not. You could see like the significant difference between Dracula and the and the people he turns, because you could
Lost
see,
ones?
yeah, like Dracula, it retains his like intellect and everything, and is actually enhanced to a degree, whereas the lost ones obviously are physically enhanced, though it's kind of been consistent. But like they're like, it's like Dracula and Joker are both sapient, whereas the lost ones are
I was
sentient.
just going to mention Joker. I was just going to
Yeah,
mention him.
for some
The Joker is a vampire in this movie? Oh my gosh.
A bold finish of wild cherries with a hint of oak.
I mean, which is like makes him like even more terrifying because now he literally has almost every like as Batman admits to Alfred in like comparison to Dracula, like a has like practically every single advantage over even the most skilled of humans. Like they're stronger, they're faster, their senses are more heightened. They have regenerative abilities. They are more intelligent, generally speaking, to an
And he
extent.
admits he even gets. Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Oh, you're
He
good.
even admits he starts becoming caught up in his legend.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways, vampires are in so many ways superior to humans in the sense of like as I already said, physically and mentally and everything. And though I think one thing that kind of like isn't which marks in this story was like the cure that the Batman and Alfred create works on Joker and the Lost Ones, but it does not work on Dracula. So I guess
I do explain it, by the way, in case anybody wonders.
though my I was like I guess Dracula like can turn people into two different kinds of vampires. One that's supernatural and one that's more I guess biological. Like one like him is a more magical in nature.
Uh,
But that's the thing though. Like as Dracula says, like the earthly medicine cannot cure a supernatural affliction. Though I don't see why he would call it an affliction, but that's besides the point. But when it was
well, I
like
mean, he's a supernatural creature to that point, and like I'm trying to think of how to word this correctly. The Lost Ones were, as Batman himself puts it, they're infected, so there is a chance to cure them, which is what he does. And it goes into depth to explain it. Remember?
I know it's just I mean, like a lot of the lost ones have like fed by then, and you in some of the folklore states to like fully become a vampire when your turn is you have to feed off another have to feed off a human being, and that's what some of the lost ones have done. But like still, they're changed back to
Does
humans.
this movie specifically say how much time has passed in it? I think it said maybe a few days or a few weeks. I just can't remember. They do regard the passage of time. I just can't remember.
Yeah, it's like it like admittedly wasn't a detail I largely focused on, but it feels like there's like this difference of like maybe the transformation takes a while, but like I don't know, it feels like a Dracula like
He actually explains it. Remember, Dracula actually specifically mentions it at one point.
I don't know, it just still admittedly confuses me because it like what's stated doesn't seem to be the same as what's shown, but maybe I'm misunderstanding.
You remember what he said though? Like maybe we can get a clip of this up in editing, depending on if you can find this clip. Because again, this movie's hard to find, as we both experienced. Dracula says something like, "I really don't want to waste a life when rather I can use it in servitude," or some line similar to that.
If only because I really hate to waste a life when it can be spent in servitude to me.
Well, that's more so the matter of like I think was like Batman was like critique critiquing Dracula for hurting people, though that was more like a sense of like Dracula wasn't wanting to like kill anyone to feed more so as like feed off them, but like make them like
Maybe I'm wrong in this one.
no. Like you see in fiction, like different kinds of vampires. You know, typically the supernatural, logical, like supernatural ones includes like the ones from Van Helsing, the originals, and like biological.
Blade, even.
Yeah, and biological stems from things like Underworld, though that sort of delves in the supernatural later. Whether or not that's well written is up for
I was
debate.
going to mention that when you did. Same thing for Blade. They use vampires. Even we're not going to get into that tonight, but
Yeah, then they're a supernatural variety though.
not even mentioning Twilight.
But it seems like I guess from how I'm perceiving it, and like I said, guys, I could be wrong about this. It just seems like there's like either like the transformation from fledgling to full vampire takes a significant amount of time, or like there's two different varieties, I guess, or one can become the other through a different way. It's hard. It's admittedly hard to say because they didn't really fully go into it, but they were more focused
Yeah,
combat
I mean,
and conflict.
I
But
agree to an extent with that.
Dracula, when you like it like and it's built up by Dracula, but also even Batman. Like Batman's worried about the as he calls it the army of vampires that could rise up and everything. But like when he goes down there to like face Dracula for the final time, when like some of the lost ones attack him, they don't. It appears like they don't seem to hold like a truly significant advantage almost. Like they dogpile him at one point, but he's managing to get one hand free and like do that garlic grenade. But
It's comic book lore, dude. It's comic book logic.
I know it's just like and then like Batman versus Dracula from what when I remember to count, there's almost like 22 times where Dracula could have like insta killed Batman, but it seems like though this is sort of like a general villain or combat sort of thing in fiction, like a certain character could like end the battle or fight quickly in a specific instance, but it's dragged out. But that's more for like entertainment and everything.
Well,
Though,
the first time he was fully going to kill him, remember? Then the sun came up.
well, that's the thing though. Dracula had a few different. Well, he was at first trying to convince him to join him, and then when he threw him against that truck, he was ready to kill him. And Dracula could have killed him then and there, and just instead of like saying all those words and just fully going in to bite him, he could have said just words and then bit him instantly, or just bit him right away and drained him.
I think Batman moving his head actually saved his life because if you see it, he moves his head and then Dracula notices the reflection of the sun.
Well, there's also the matter of like, given how strong and fast Dracula is, he could have snatched Batman and flew him over with Batman in his grip into the darkness and just drained him there. But
You could make the argument though Batman's weight would have dragged him down long enough.
possibly,
I think we're questioning too much why he didn't kill him when he clearly tries to twice, and the first time he just doesn't because he runs out of time, and the second time Batman just outsmarts him and lures him into a trap.
well, that's the thing though. Batman almost was killed several times when he was trying to lure him into that trap, because there's one point where Dracula has his throat and all, and it goes to like cave his head in, but he lets go of his throat instead. He should have held on and just, and that would
Are
have.
we thinking of the part where Alfred came up and shot him, or are we thinking of this? Are you pointing out something else?
No, this was in the fight when in the
Oh, the
cave.
first one.
No, in the fight when after Batman ruins Dracula's ceremony to revive his bride and everything,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like Dracula, this is when Dracula is really pissed and out to kill Batman. And at one point, like I said, he has him by his throat, and he could have like held him there because Batman, I guess you could say realistically, couldn't have been able to move away from his grip, and caved in his head. It seemed like he pulled his hand back or something. You'd think he could have held him there, and then
But then again, if you're an all-powerful, immortal being, wouldn't you like toying with somebody, not knowing what he's got in store for you?
well, I guess that's the thing. Like, I guess that's maybe him wanting to draw out as much pain as possible, because like at first, like
Doesn't he even say that at one point?
he was like when their first encounter, like when Batman was trying to face him, and Dracula at that point wasn't trying to kill him. It was more so toying with him and showing he was superior to Batman.
You keep cutting out randomly.
Yeah. Like at the first encounter before Dracula decides to kill him in their first encounter, Dracula showing his superiority to Batman in speed and strength and everything, and just toying with him because Batman's not really landing any hits, or Dracula lands a couple. Like
I don't think he landed one punch in the first fight, did he?
no, he struck him in the chest and sent him flying into a wall, and then later.
No, I meant, I don't think Batman landed one strike in the first fight. I meant
Oh, my bad.
because you directly said Batman before I said that.
Yeah, my bad. No, Batman really did not get a clean hit in at all, because I mean, you're dealing, as you said, with not an all powerful being, but certainly far more powerful and superior being to a human. You'd think even like the most well trained of humans would not be able to land a hit on a being who can move faster than the human eye can perceive, or
Can
be.
we just say on that note that the action scenes were really good and well animated?
Yeah, like it showed there was that one part where Dracula like tried to like I think leave Batman in half, and he just missed Batman, but he hits that stone pillar in the cave, and it just
Oh yeah,
it breaks.
get that clip up in editing. That was amazing. Remember what he did to the Batmobile with one hand?
Yeah, he just with
You know,
one.
if I was Batman, I would have got in there and used that as a shell.
Well, that's the thing though. Since he moved it like that, Dracula would just started smashing it and just ripped it. Maybe one thing about like the turn, new Lost Ones was, since they're like new vampires, they're obviously not going to be as powerful as with like their
Did you
size.
see Joker? Did you see Joker Vampire?
I know that, but that's what I'm saying though, is like it's inconsistent, because you have moments where they seem to be, even not as powerful as Dracula, to be still be superior to Batman, like Joker, because he could have won that fight just like Dracula could have at any point. He was just toying with Batman. He was like reveling in power and everything. And why wouldn't he in that scenario? Since he's wanting to kill Batman, and he's enjoying just how empowered he is and everything.
Can I say, like, real quick, could we agree that the best fight scene is the final one between Batman and Dracula?
Yeah, it's like showing just like that's when like it's when almost all of Dracula's like poise and charisma and like
Becomes savage.
yeah, it's like he that's when he really starts letting loose. He's
But
just
there's one other fight scene in the movie that's really close to being the best one for me, which is the vampire Joker versus Batman. He gets showered in blood.
he's just like I said, he's reveling in it's Joker is just reveling and enjoying all these new feelings. As Dracula said, to become vampire is to heighten all of one's senses, and becoming and being a vampire would make you experience feelings and sensations a human could hardly imagine, and you would have to experience it to truly understand it. And
To get
that's
back to that point where he's showered with blood, since cartoon politics usually don't allow much, if any, blood or even bullets anymore, I love how they get around it. And another reviewer actually pointed this out. I'll give him a shout out for another point I'm going to bring up.
mhm.
But like they dim the lights so it looks black. Like that's actually a really creative way to get around showing a lot of blood.
And that's when like Joker forgets Batman because he starts just the sensation and his thirst just overwhelms him, and he just starts literally licking the floor. And
Ugh.
I think one thing about like and similar between vampires and humans is like our hunger or thirst or whatever, like our physical and everything. And like for humans, like in a lot of ways, for many of us, it's like just overwhelming and you just let loose and everything and you just and I imagine for a vampire theirs is even greater and stronger, so Joker just went at it and that's what he did.
Yeah, I can't add anything. I was just gonna say on another topic, I really like how the formula of the show is actually in this movie as well. Which you didn't watch much of the show, did you say?
I've seen some of it before. Some episodes I remember more than the others.
Like the basic formula for the show is new threat comes to town, Batman tries to stop it, gets his ass kicked. He goes back, researches the problem, and finds a way to save the day. That's actually very fitting for a character like him. He very rarely wins the first encounter in that show.
Yeah, and he nearly lost again this time because the only reason he didn't win is because Dracula, as you said, like was just wanting to lengthen and expand the pain and agony and fear and terror as possible. If he just went in for the kill immediately, he would have won.
Well,
And
Batman did cleverly set that trap as a last resort. Do you want to say what that trap is, or
oh, solar energy machine.
yeah, they set it up in the movie though. He just doesn't pull it out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just Batman needed to get there to like activated it to activate it. Sorry, and like I said, even in the cave, like you see like the stone break apart and everything, and Alfred is looking and seeming and walk out, but then you see Dracula holding the back of his neck, and Dracula could have he would have won.
Well, Alfred did distract him, remember, and that's what caused him to drop him.
No, I meant like as soon as Dracula walked
Oh,
in.
okay.
Yeah, I get what you mean though. Yeah, he could have just snapped his neck immediately, and he would have won.
No,
Man,
what he did is he dropped him, then tossed the car aside.
yeah,
Then
I know.
Alfred comes up behind him and shoots him with the last of the cure.
Yeah, I'm surprised Dracula did not notice that. You think he would have turned or just like caught him like you see in fiction.
Alfred hesitated for a few seconds if you watch the animation really closely.
It's just it's like those little moments of inconsistencies here and there, but like it adds to like because you would like I think that was like the solar energy was like the last ditch effort because Batman and Alfred thought that would have cured him, but you could see like it just added to things when it just did nothing, and you just see Dracula just laughing and
Then
like
again, did Alfred really have to go for the one-liner before he shot Dracula?
that's just typical fiction. But
I'm just saying though, it's a good point. Like Dracula, you clearly hear the footsteps. This would have been me. Walk up behind him,
yeah,
hit him with a crossbow.
actually that brings up one thing I almost forgot. When Dracula sees the solar machine, realizes at that point that Batman is Bruce Wayne, but after like during their first encounter, as well, when Dracula first encounters Batman as Batman, don't you think he would have recognized him immediately just by his scent?
I mean, it works better the way they wrote it, admittedly. I mean, he can't really go out or anything, so what's he gonna do? He doesn't have social media. He's not gonna be like tweeting like, "OMG."
I know I meant with like it's presented multiple times that vampires have a heightened sense of smell, and you would have thought like when Dracula encounters Bruce Wayne as Batman, he would have
He had
detected his
garlic
scent.
weaponry. He had garlic and soda into his suit, though. Remember, so you could make the argument.
True.
Because Alfred specifically, as he says, lines all the doors and multiple weapons in Batman's armor with garlic.
Fair point. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, this is the point another reviewer mentioned actually. Two things, and shout out to Bob Show, by the way, for bringing these up when he reviewed the movies years ago, because he brought up this point I wanted to share with you.
Hmm.
The first one is, don't vampires have to be invited into places? So how could Dracula just go into Wayne Manor? Was the point he mentioned.
I think that's one of the matters of folklore that can be like that's been nitpicked before, like with sunlight and everything. And there's also the garlic thing and the undead thing and everything. Because like, see, people have like different interpretations or perceptions about it. Like garlic, it was said to be instead of like repel vampires, it was supposed to like repel the scent of death, or like with sunlight. Instead of killing him, it just weakened him. So it's like these nitpicks of like creating their own versions of vampires and everything in different forms of fiction.
And the second point he mentioned is when Dracula's talking about his packs, his backstory, and you see it.
Hmm.
Bob Show admitted, like, and I don't think we should put a clip of this unless you think it's important, and I'd send you the review for this.
Okay.
He mentioned them sending him to the other side of the world after they punctured his heart in just his coffin technically should have worked because he had no bit of his homeland with him to regenerate. So technically, that should have worked in
Yeah,
finishing him off for good.
I guess like maybe that some like when they were like loading him onto the ship or something, maybe like some part of dirt or earth like was connected to it. That's another like
He
element.
mentioned that, and I didn't even think about that until he mentioned it.
Yeah, and that sort of reminds me of a different point, but I'll get into that in just a minute. But that's another like element that could be like altered or like nitpicked with like vampire fiction, because that I think is more like true to the original book and also the movie that came out some time ago, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Even
I
oh,
heard that wasn't that good, actually.
in some ways it's not like it's not it's a in some ways it's like a more there were some interesting things about it, some things I question and everything, but they don't really talk about Dracula as even a vampire. The word vampire is never mentioned. They just call him a demon or a devil. That's
I
a
mean, if you've never heard the word before, isn't that what you'd call it?
Yeah, it's actually I
It's
forgot.
kind of like how in ancient Rome, they didn't know the word volcano, so when Pompeii was destroyed, they didn't know how to describe it.
Like these elements of, like I said, there's certain elements and everything, like I said, of vampire folklore and everything and history that I'm not fully aware of. I haven't like really truly heavily researched it. I mean, I've looked into it some, but it is like something that I hope to understand more of and for different reasons and everything. But that also, this is like just a brief point when I remembered you talking about the thing. Like the whole reason Dracula was released and everything because of the Penguin. Don't you think? Wouldn't you think even driven by immense greed, when Penguin saw the coffin literally chained around with giant chains and literally chained to the walls and everything and suspended in the air, don't you think he would have suspected, even the least, maybe I shouldn't open that?
Whoa. Like that'll stop me.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
For context, a prisoner told him about millions he had stored away in mob money.
I know, but it would that
I'm just
would
saying I'm just saying for your viewers so they know what we're talking about.
yeah. I mean that how that was constructed would have taken time, and from the way as he described it, that would have taken more time than that guy would have had to hide that money away and everything. But I don't know.
It's within Penguin's character in this universe, to be honest with you.
True. It's
He is smart, but his whole backstory in this show is he wants to rebuild his family's wealth. So I mean, if you have millions there and you think it's the right one, are you really going to pass an opportunity on it?
maybe I'm just
I agree with you. If we're looking at it from a logical standpoint, I 100% agree with you. But within the terms of the show, it's within his character.
yeah, because that should terrify you. Like that should let make every hair on your body not only stand up and twitch, but
I'd be like, what is in there that I don't want to know about?
yeah, it's a morbid sort of thing. Like you might know, but do you really want to know?
It's like in Yu-Gi-Oh when he draws Exodia for the first time. You don't know what he's gonna do, and then just suddenly this thing comes out and obliterates you.
Yeah, it's
Random point. I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh for the first time. Random point. I just want to mention that.
yeah. But anyways, the movie brings in like this
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are certain elements of it that, like, I think, like, the whole thing of, Dracula trying to convince Batman to join him would have been
He's gonna refuse no matter what.
yeah, issue is, though, like, it would have made, like, obviously, like, Dracula wasn't turning humans into vampires to, like, help them or anything, it was just to build up his power again and everything, and it wasn't like him doing it, like, him, curing somebody who had, like, a incurable disease or, like, an terminal.
He's just a straight up bad guy, dude.
That's the thing though, there's so much possibilities with, like, being a vampire and what it could be used for to change things for people, like someone who's paralyzed, you could turn them or give vampire blood, be, fixed instantaneously, or,
If you want that, I'd recommend the movie Renfield.
it's just, like, different, I guess, like, I see it in different ways because, like,
No,
the
I get what you're saying,
yeah,
but in terms of this story, it's just a basic good versus evil story that's really well written. I
yeah.
don't want Dracula to be a sympathetic. I mean, look at him in the poster, for God's sake.
Oh, I'm not talking about Dracula being sympathetic. He wasn't turning humans to the vampires to, like, help them or anything. He was literally enslaving them. Yes, he was making them more physically powerful, but, he wasn't the only person that you could say, like, got a something good was Joker because his mind, was retained and everything with the
That
physical
is
part.
interesting to ponder, though, as to why that happened.
I don't know, like, maybe Dracula sent him out as, like, a personal hitman or something,
Or
or,
maybe Joker was just too insane that Bad Dracula couldn't even control him.
there was at one point though that Joker ominously said, "I'm his vessel," and then Joker, like, has this, like, perplexed look on his face. I
Maybe
mean,
that's just limited control. I think we're delving too deep into that one problem.
yeah, it's and there's also one thing I kind of find ironic was, like, I'm surprised we haven't gotten into it yet, was the whole, Batman killing Dracula thing, like,
Here, I'm just saying, here we
I
go.
know. I'm not arguing and saying Dracula shouldn't have been killed. Obviously he needed because, he was, gonna and like I said, he wasn't doing anything to help anybody. That Batman was, like, almost crying over losing Joker earlier in the movie, but, he had no issues with killing Dracula, which you could say. I mean, he wasn't literally crying, but he said he lost Joker and he wasn't going to lose anyone else. It's just kind of actually kind of really unsettling.
Dracula is an undead, evil vampire who has literally stated he will kill as many people as he can.
I know that's the thing though. Joker, like the thing with Dracula, you could arguably say at least he needs to feed on people just to survive. But Joker, he kills just for fun and to torment
Joker
people.
never actually kills anybody in this show, for context.
Oh well, but, like, generally speaking, like,
You gotta separate other universes from this because
true,
it's
true.
clearly its own universe. I agree with Batman's no killing law has been heavily debated. There's probably people even more qualified than us who have debated this issue. But in terms of the story, he doesn't kill anybody in this show at all. And in terms of the series as a whole, and Dracula, he's already dead, so you can't make the argument he killed somebody who's living. Number two, he literally said it was a last resort, and if he fails, we don't know what would have happened.
Vampire, the whole undead thing is still doesn't totally make sense to me because, like, there's still, like, if when they're, like, literally stated to be undead and everything, they're still, like, living to sort of an extent, and they're, like, doing what they do to survive and everything. Obviously, like, moments like where Dracula, being a asshole and everything, and, it's,
Yeah,
the whole, like, they're not truly dead, they're still living in a different sort of way, but I get what you're saying. I just find it ironic that Batman's no killing rule was broken here for someone you could say in some ways was living in a way that in some ways, as we've stated, is superior to what humans experience, but that's a whole other.
we want to give this movie our final review, like what we think of it as our I'm at rating.
Yeah, I personally, I'm like between
Your
uncertain and
middle.
I'm middle to an extent, like it brings in some different interesting possibilities. Admittedly, my bias in my own perception of vampires admittedly is, like, focusing
Holding you
my
back
view.
from giving it a higher rating.
Well, it's like in the sense of like obviously, my how I perceive vampires or like how I want to like write them eventually and everything is obviously not is like a very unpopular and like uncommon sort of thing. But like it brings like the movie does bring in interesting possibilities, and I what for what it does and what it's pushing, I think it succeeds in what it's in the story it's trying to tell. What do you think?
I'm gonna give it my rating real quick because we're running out of time on the recording, so you can do your outro. I give the movie thumbs up. You probably gave it 2 out of 4 stars since you're middle ground. I give it 3.5 out of 4.
I'm leaning between 2.5 and 3.5, admittedly, right now.
Well,
Uh,
2 to 2.5 is like in the middle. Anything above is like 2.5.
Fair enough. Yeah, but yeah, I want to thank you again, Nate, for joining me and suggesting this movie for us to review. I'm
Sorry
always
for the
glad.
rushed ending.
You're good. I'm just thank you again for joining me, and I'm always glad to have you on the channel with me.
God bless. Let's do this.
And everyone have a happy Halloween.
No comment.